Hello all, I'm abgemacht of Web Diplomacy, and today I want to talk to you about the DATC. So DATC stands for Diplomacy Adjudicator Test Cases. They were created in 2001 by Lucas Krauswak, and they are used to help validate adjudicator software. So back in the play-by-mail days, it was very typical to have one GM who players would mail their orders to, and that person would then adjudicate the orders and send out the results. As the internet became more popular, though, it became increasingly common for adjudicator software to be used in place of GMs. And while adjudicator software usually works very well for very simple moves, there are some very nuanced mechanics and even paradoxes that can result from the diplomacy rules that oftentimes adjudicators wouldn't handle properly, and even worse, nobody would realize they handled them improperly until somebody tried one of these moves in game and realized that their moves were adjudicated incorrectly. So these test cases were created to help validate an adjudicator before it started being used for games. Uh, Web diplomacy is DATC compliant, and which is very good because that certainly wasn't always the case. But it gives you assurances that the moves you enter will conform to the rules of the game. Now, these are mostly used for developers that want to make their own adjudicators, which is not of interest to most diplomacy players, but they can also be used to help learn the mechanics of the game or help you as a player um, resolve the more nuanced um, moves that are possible. And this could be good if you're on WebDip and you want to you want to know what a move will do, and maybe you don't have access to some sandbox software such as JDip. It's also useful if you are in a casual face-to-face game and you just have a group of people who are adjudicating the game on your own, or even if you're a tournament director of a face-to-face game, and in one of the games, two players disagree on how a set of moves should be adjudicated. You, as a TD, would like to ideally you would like to just know how those moves should be adjudicated. But if you don't, you definitely want to have a way of quickly sorting out the proper way of adjudicating. On all of these things, DATC references can help with. So we are going to go up in the top right of Web Diplomacy to the Help section. And if you scroll towards the bottom, you'll see DATC adjudicator tests, and you'll see this little warning here for experts. Don't let that worry you. Just click it anyway. So the first thing we have here is a link to Lucas's actual website, where they give the change log and then an introduction to DATC, as well as a history of diplomacy rules and how they've changed. And then he goes into every one of the test cases. This is an absolutely fascinating website. Anyone who's even remotely interested in the nuances of diplomacy mechanics, or if you just are interested in the history of how the game was developed, I strongly encourage you to take a look at his website. For the most part, though, we are going to stick to Web Diplomacy's page on the test cases. And what we see is that there are certain sections. So we have basic checks, we have coastal issues, circular movement, supports and dislodges, head-to-head battles and beleaguered garrisons, convoys, and convoying to adjacent places. So let's say, for instance, you find yourself in a beleaguered garrison situation. Now, a beleaguered garrison is when you have two opposing forces of equal strength attempting to enter a territory that has a unit in it. So normally, let's say you have two units that bounce in a territory. They bounce, okay? If you have both those units support, both those units have support, they still bounce. And what happens is if you have a unit in the territory where the bounce occurs, that unit there is said to be beleaguered, and it is not forced to retreat because neither of the attacking forces actually make it into the territory. So let's say you find yourself in that situation, but maybe it's a little more complicated and you're not exactly sure how your particular instance would play out. So we just go down into this section and we look for whatever happens to be the most similar to the situation you have. So let's take, for instance, this test case, 6E7. And it says passed. So first of all, we know that diplomacy passed this test case, which of course is good. And so it says test case, no self-dislodgement with beleaguered garrison. Okay, now what exactly does that mean? Well, thankfully, WebDip has a nice little image off to the left that shows a pictorial representation of each test case. So let's see the situation we have here. What we have is North Sea is the beleaguered unit. It is being attacked by Norway with support from Skagerrak, and it is being attacked from Heligoland Blight from Holland. Yes, Kestis did decide to pick the area on the map that has the most difficult to pronounce territories, but so normally this would be a normal beleaguered garrison situation. But what we see here is Yorkshire actually attempts to support Norway in to North Sea. Now, one of the basic rules of diplomacy is you can't self-dislodge. And basically what this test case says is it doesn't matter if you're beleaguered, you still can't self-dislodge. So let's look at one that is slightly more complicated. Well, so here's another interesting one. This is just a test case showing a three-way beleaguered garrison. So here we can see that Norway is supporting Norwegian Sea into the North Sea, and Belgium is being supported by English Channel to North Sea, and Yorkshire is being supported by Edinburgh into North Sea. So it doesn't matter how many equal forces are attempting to enter a territory. It will, as long as all of the attacks are of equal strength, it will be beleaguered. So then one slightly more interesting one is, let's look at test case, no self-dislodgement with beleaguered garrison and head-to-head battle. Okay, so this is similar to the first example we looked at. The only difference is that North Sea this time is moving. Okay, it again, you still can't self-dislodge, so the fact that Yorkshire is supporting Norway to North Sea doesn't matter. But what does this, in a more practical setting, what does this mean? This means that if you believe you're going to have yourself in a beleaguered garrison situation, you can actually use that unit to cut support. So obviously hitting Norway isn't particularly useful, But let's say instead there was a unit perhaps in Norwegian Sea that was doing something unrelated. Maybe he was going to maybe he was supporting something else, or maybe even you wanted to bounce in Edinburgh with that enemy in Norwegian Sea. This beleaguered unit is free to move to defend. Now, obviously, as in test case 6.e.9, you can actually leave the if you were to leave the province, you and you are not you're then not self-dislodging, and the Yorkshire support um, actually can then be used to support Norway, and this is no longer really a beleaguered garrison situation because it's not forces of equal support. But if there was a unit in Norwegian Sea, you could hit it. Or if there was a unit in Norwegian Sea, you could bounce with it in Edinburgh, and so that's a very powerful set of moves to have. So let's go back up here and just take one more example. Um, I had a good one, if I can remember it. I guess we'll just scroll down until I find it. And so what you see here is there's just a whole plethora of um, ah, there we go. So there's a whole plethora of test cases, which I enjoy just going through and looking at to get a better sense of the nuances of the game. And it helps to have looked at it once or twice before in case you ever do actually need to reference something in it. All right, so let's look at 6.f.13. Test case, the unwanted alternative. Okay, so what we see here is it looks like there was a unit in North Sea that got disbanded because Denmark was supported into that territory, and we see that London is convoyed to Belgium. It certainly it it was attempted to be convoyed by the unit in North Sea. That of course failed because that unit was dislodged, um, and it succeeded though with the unit from English Channel. So one side note here is in the original rules, if you had multiple convoy routes, if any of those fleets were dislodged, the entire convoy would fail. So if we were playing with the original rules, even though English Channel is still available to convoy London to Belgium, because the other convoy, North Sea, was dislodged, that unit would have stayed in London. That clearly isn't the best rule, and that's mostly why it was changed. This certainly seems better, but the consequences of that is you end up with potentially this unwanted alternative. Now, in this case, the picture doesn't give us all of that detailed of an explanation. And so you can actually click on the link here and we go back to Lucas's page where it gives often a much more detailed explanation of what this test case is attempting to do. And you can certainly read through these. They're all very interesting. But the gist of this one is, so we'll go back and look at the picture. The gist of this one is that if England were to be attacked by Germany, he may not have wanted to go to Belgium. So England might have said, well, I'll try to go for Belgium, assuming that Germany's my ally. Because if Germany's my ally, then obviously the convoy would happen through North Sea. And if Germany's not my ally and he tries to take North Sea, well, North Sea will be dislodged. and I'll have to retreat somewhere, but at least my army will stay in London, so I'll be on my island to defend myself. So that is uh, a very realistic thought process that England might have. And so he might do that and think he's perfectly fine. But what we see here is presumably if Germany and France were in cahoots, France provided an unwanted alternative to England's convoy. So those are just two brief examples of perhaps learning something new about the mechanics of the game, or um, how you could quickly reference a rule check. So if somebody said, "Hey," in a game, someone said, "Hey, my fleet in North Sea was dislodged, and that's how I wanted to convoy. My army in London should stay there." Well, you could say, "Well, no, according to 6F13 of the adjudicator test cases, it actually moves via an unwanted convoy." And then you have them right there, and it's clear to everybody how you came to your decision. So I encourage everybody to look through this page, to look through Lucas's original page, maybe take a look at some of the more complicated paradoxes, and hopefully in the future we will come up with a couple more videos of some of the um, trickier paradoxes, some of which don't really have true resolutions. And when we do that, we will, of course, be relying on these test cases further. So I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you for watching.